Here we are again, Faith Assembly of God, Smiths Grove, Kentucky. We're a little country church. I think they say our town is 600. Is that what they say, Larry? Yeah. We do not have a red and green light, but on this end of town we have it's not in town, but we have a blinking light, and we are getting Buc-ee's. But we are Faith Assembly of God, P.O. Box 331, Smiths Grove, Kentucky, 42171. We are KY Fingers, KYFINGERS at AOL.com. And you can find us on Facebook too, Wade Hughes. But we have some thoughts we want to share with you today, and I have some things on my heart that I absolutely want to share. We have a friend in Michigan that called me last week, not Lupton, Michigan. Honestly, I don't know what town in Michigan it is. And he said, I like your flag over there. And I said, well, it looks like a flag, but that's a shirt. That's my shirt. I bought it for the 4th of July one year, and it just works there. And then we got Peace in the Valley on the other side. But I am Wade Martin Hughes Sr., and on the other side of the camera is Larry Carter. He does all the brain work. As a matter of fact, he had to come over and do something on my computer. We try to do some older songs that we all know. And let's do this. When the trumpet of the Lord shall sound, and time shall be no more, and the morning breaks eternal, bright and fair. When the saved of earth shall gather to their home beyond the sky, and the roll is called up yonder, I'll be there. When the roll is called up yonder, when the roll is called up yonder, when the roll is called up yonder. When the roll is called up yonder, I'll be there. Some glad morning when this life is o'er, I'll fly away to a home on God's celestial shore. I'll fly away, oh, I'll fly away, oh glory, I'll fly away when I got hallelujah by and by. I'll fly away. One of my favorites is this. Jesus, keep me near the cross. There's a precious fountain, free to all, a healing stream flows from Calvary's mountain. In the cross, in the cross, be my glory ever, till my raptured soul shall find rest beyond the river. we'd like to thank you for tuning in. And we always asked one thing. We've never asked for an offering. We've never asked for things, but we do ask. Our hands are so small, and you can enlarge our hands. We had a Sunday school superintendent in the mountains. It's the longest serving Sunday school superintendent. Of course, they don't do that anymore. In the Assemblies of God in the state of Kentucky. His name was Joe Arnett. And Joe would always say this every Sunday. If everybody here would bring somebody with them next Sunday, we'd have twice the crowd we got today. Well, how true that is. If everybody that listened to this would pass it on to one other person or multiple people, our reach of our hands would go further. I want us to look today at promotion. Day before yesterday, I got a call, one of these where they hardly speak any English and you have to listen close to understand them. But the lady guaranteed me a promotion. She was going to promote me. She was going to elevate me. She was going to, and I thought, boy, that's nice. I don't know how she's going to do it, but she's going to promote me. And I started singing Jesus Loves Me. That's what I usually do. I sung Jesus Loves Me to her. She listened. She didn't hang up. I asked her how'd she like that, and she said, well, that's pretty good. So I sang it again. I just love, I can't ever aggravate them as much as they aggravate me. That's one of my pet peeves I hate. But I want us to know that we have a challenge, a spiritual challenge in front of us. And iron sharpens iron. And I want us to think about that. I've pastored 44 years, 34 years here at Smiths Grove. Again, we are a small country church. COVID has really knocked us in the head as far as attendance and those issues and programs and things that we can do. It's hurt us. COVID's been in the news today that it might have been intentional, is what one of the investigators said. But we have two great needs in the church today. And both of them probably are not applauded ministries. Therefore, not very many people want to enter into this ministry. The first ministry is the ministry of intercession. We need intercession in the church. What you gain by intercession, you keep by intercession. I read one day this week, I read where there was a missionary in Africa, and a group of pagan people was going to kill him and destroy him, and they came upon him in the woods and was going to sneak up and kill him. And there was 38 armed soldiers around him to protect him. And they let him go. And he asked, why are you letting me go? And they said, because we can't fight those 38 armed guards around you. They would kill all of us. And he was itinerating back in the States, and this lady asked him, she was the president of the ladies group at the church, she asked him, do you remember anything about a certain date? And she told the calendar date of it. And he thought for a minute and said, yes, that was the day that I was going to get killed. They was going to kill me. And they didn't kill me. And the lady said, why didn't they kill you? And he said, because there was 38 armed guards around me, and was they was going to kill me, and they saw these guards, and they decided, they ran and got away. And the lady told him about that date, that we have a women's prayer group together once a week that prays, and on such and such a date, you was in our hearts, and that date that they was going to kill you, and that date we prayed for you, is the same date. And the lady asked in the large group, she asked if they would stand to their feet, and that was at that prayer meeting, and they prayed for him. It was so amazing that when they counted the heads in the group of people, 38 women stood up, that they was in that prayer meeting praying that day. We need intercessors. We need people to pray in the Spirit. We need people to moan and groan and those things. But that's not my thought today. My thought today is we need encouragers. We need somebody in the church to see that there is an active ministry in encouraging people. And we need that. We've got mommies that comes to church that's been under extreme pressure. We have people facing financial giants. We have people that's in debt so much they borrow on this credit card to make the payment on this credit card. We've got people that never read their Bible. We've got people that's unfaithful to church. Everything takes the place of church. We've got all of those things, and we need somebody. I got an email this morning on my cell phone from a lady that's dad is in the rest home a distance away from here. And he said to her, darling, his daughter that loves him and so takes care of, he says, daughter, I feel so useless. I feel so useless. I used to do a whole lot. I feel so useless. And maybe he can enter into that realm of intercession. He's had a stroke and can't get out of bed by himself. But we need intercessors, and we need somebody to intercede, but we need somebody to encourage. Let me define for you two words. There's the word edify. Edify. All through the Bible, we find that there's people that took silent roles. There was spies, and they was going to die that day. And a bad lady hid them and let them over the wall. I call them basket cases. That lady saved herself and her whole household. Paul, we don't know the people's names. For some reason, Paul didn't take the time to write down the names, but I guarantee he knew he was going to be in big trouble. And they put him, history tells us that Paul was a very heavy-set man. Bible doesn't say that, but history says that. They put him in a basket, let him down over the wall. No doubt that hurt their hands. No doubt the next day they were sore. But because of what they did, Moses had Aaron on one side and Hur on the other side of them. That encouraged him by lifting up the hands. We need somebody to see that there is a call. Your preacher, sometimes he finishes the sermon and he feels so good. And sometimes he steps out of the pulpit and the devil whips him over the head. Whips him over the head. You're doing nothing. Look, the church isn't growing. Look, the finances. Look at all of this. Your preacher, your Sunday school teacher studies for hours. And he needs somebody every now and then to applaud him, to thank him. There's a little old lady in the church that's put in the offering more than she could probably afford. She needs somebody to encourage her. She needs somebody to encourage her. To edify means construction. I went by the not Hobby Lobby. Where do they sell those cheap tools?
Harbor Freight.
I went by Harbor Freight and I bought me a tool. And I plan on giving this to my friend Buddy that builds houses. He's a house builder. And I thought this would be just a tool for him to build a house. It's a miniature hammer. He might be able to build a house with this, but it's going to require a whole bunch more work. We have to use whatever tools that we have to accomplish our goals. But one mark of a good skilled person is they have good tools. I in front of everybody said that Buddy could build a house with this. And Buddy said, no, I build houses with a gun, a nail gun. It shoots it across there. Edify means to construct, to build up. Edify means kindness. Not everybody that needs somebody to treat them kindly have been treating other people kindly. Edify means to instruct or to teach. Larry and I was talking before we started today about some young teenage boys that we know that are doomed. Their situations are terrible. And I've been thinking about what tool could I use to help them. I had a Sunday school teacher, I mentioned it before, Earl Massengale. I had a Sunday school teacher out of St. Charles, Virginia, in Middlesboro, Kentucky, named Eula Howard. I wrote on the Lee County, Virginia thing one day about how a lady from Lee County, Virginia touched my life, and I told her name. And it's a site where people tell stories about Lee County, Virginia. And I told her name, and I told where she was from. And I guess I had 6 people respond that Eula Howard had affected their life. Maybe not a big hammer, but a little hammer. And if you keep pecking away with the little hammer, you're going to get the job done. You're teaching somebody today. What are you teaching somebody today? You're teaching your spouse or your children or your next door neighbor. You're teaching something. To edify means to improve. I'd like to do something today that would improve me and that would improve you. It means to uplift, to inspire, to nurture. That baby will never make an adult, and we can say, well, it's time that baby quit drinking milk all the time. There's a process that we go through, and someday we hope that promotion will come and we'll step up. I'd also like to define the word encourage. Encourage means to give confidence. We live in a day that people ooze with confidence, but in all reality, they're crushed. There is no confidence. Encourage means to get somebody to continue, to give support. After I had my shoulder surgery, for weeks, I wore my arm. I had a cushion here and I had a sling here, and I wore it. My shoulder needed supported. It couldn't. There's people in the church that's dying, spiritually dying. There's people in the church that are physically dying. And we need to support them. We need to encourage them to keep on keeping on. We need to stimulate each other in the church. We need to be hope givers. I've been working for some time on a lesson, how to be a hope giver, to take heart, to urge, to cheer up, to give comfort, to strengthen, to refuse to give up. We need people. I go to preachers' meetings. I've never pastored a large church. I twice was elected at a large church. Twice I accepted the offer. And twice after I come home and prayed, I decided no, that wasn't in the will of God. I may have a little hammer in a little place. I may not accomplish a bunch of big things. But the devil beats God's children over the head because we don't encourage each other. I think before you leave for church that you should pray about who could you encourage when you get there. I'm going to pick up a couple verses. Romans, the 14th chapter, verse 19. Romans 14:19. Let us therefore follow after the things which make peace, and the things wherewith one may edify another. There is an imperative command there. It says, wherewith one may edify another. It is your Christian duty to pray, yes, to read your Bible, yes. It's your Christian duty to sing to the Lord. It's your Christian duty to praise the Lord. It's your Christian duty, but it's your Christian duty to encourage and edify other people. Let me read to you out of 1 Thessalonians 5, verse 11. Wherefore, comfort yourselves together and edify one another, even as also ye do. And we beseech you, brethren, to know them that labor among you and are over you in the Lord, and admonish you, and to esteem them very highly in love for the work's sake, and be at peace among yourselves. Now that we exhort you, brethren, warn them that are unruly, comfort the feeble-minded. Hey, I've got hope. Comfort the feeble-minded, support the weak, be patient towards all men. See that none render evil for evil unto any man, but ever follow that which is good, both among yourselves and to all men. I would like to read that to you, if you'll forgive me for my ignorance, out of the Message. 1 Thessalonians 5:11 through 15. And the Message says this: So speak encouraging words to one another. Build up hope, so that you'll all be together in this. No one left out, no one left behind. Kentucky's education system has used this motto for several years, no one left behind. It's not a Kentucky education. The Lord says that we're not to leave. There's people that go faster than other people, and if you're not careful, you're going to leave those that lag behind, and the enemy, the wolf's going to sneak up on them and left behind. I know you are already doing this. Just keep on doing it. And now, friends, we ask you to honor those leaders who work so hard for you, who have been given the opportunity, the responsibility of urging and guiding you along in your obedience. Overwhelm them with appreciation and love. Woo! Overwhelm them. Somebody says they'll get a big head. You don't have to worry. Where you live, there's enough head shrinkers that will shrink those heads. You don't have to worry about that. Overwhelm them with appreciation and love. Get along among yourself, each of you doing your part. Our counsel is that you warn the freeloaders to get a move on, to gently encourage the stragglers, and to reach out to those that are exhausted, pulling them to their feet. Be patient with each person, attentive to the individual needs, and be careful that when you get on each other's nerves, that you don't snap at each other. Ooh, I see that. I've probably seen that this week. Somebody snap at somebody else instead of encouraging. Look for the best in each other, and always do your best to bring out the best in them. If you'll forgive me, I've got smudges on my glasses. It's making it very hard to see, and I hadn't noticed that. Used to, when Linda got mad at me, she would wet her fingers and stick them to the lens of my glasses. And wow, that many times in life I couldn't see clearly, and it wasn't my eyes, it was my glasses. And spiritually speaking, that's true. Let me tell you about somebody that we know, everybody here knows, in the 1920s or whatever. There was a guy named Babe Ruth. Babe Ruth was a famous baseball player, and Babe Ruth had several real famous quotes, but I really like one of his quotes. He said, "The loudest boos come from the cheapest seats." How true that one is. How true it is. Somebody talks about the guitar players guitar playing, and they can't play anything. I don't want to be an art critic. I want to be an artist. I want to do that. And he says the loudest boos come from the crowd and the cheapest seats. You know what Babe Ruth is known for? What would you tell me right now? What's Babe Ruth famous for? Home runs. He had in his career, and his record stood for many years, he had 714 home runs. Wow, that was a record that stood. And in all honesty, when Hank Aaron beat that record, Hank Aaron played in more games than Babe Ruth did, but he beat the record, and that record stood for many years. We know Babe Ruth because he's the home run king. Let me tell you something that we don't tell very often. He walked 2,062 times. When he come up to bat, a lot of times they didn't want him to knock a home run, so they walked him. He had the record for the walks. But wait just a second. Let me tell you the truth. While he had 714 home runs, Babe Ruth had 1,330 strikeouts. He had the record for the strikeouts for many years. We know him as a successful player that knocked home runs because he didn't quit when he struck out. If you would do the ratio to that, for every one home run that he made, he struck out twice. But we know him because of his success, that he refused to allow the failure. There's people at church that struck out. They failed. They've let the Lord down. There's people that's not faithful. Listen, I'm at church every time the doors are open. Larry on the other side of the cameras in church every time the doors are open. There'd be a rare exception if we're not here. But let me tell you, I'm no better than the person that's never set their foot in the door. I talked to somebody 2 weeks ago that told me they had never stepped a foot inside of a church building. Wow, I'm no better than they are. I've struck out so many times. But we know the people that keep on. Let me ask you a question, read you a verse, and then I'll ask you a question. Do you know that you have effect on other people? There's several words in English I have trouble with. One of the word is effect or effect. I look it up in the dictionary. I know what it says. I know that. So here, let me say, do you know you have an effect or an effect on other people? There's power in relationships. I don't serve a religion, although the Bible says there is a pure and undefiled religion, which very few do. That's to visit the widows and the orphans. That's pure religion. But I'm not serving the Lord in a religion. I'm serving the Lord in a relationship. I want to know Jesus in his fullness. The young boy in the late 1800s was writing a report on Abraham Lincoln, and he gathered books at the little school that he went to. He read about Abraham Lincoln, and he wrote about Abraham Lincoln, and he read the paper that he wrote about Abraham Lincoln, and the grandfather said, "That's neat. You know about Abraham Lincoln. I drove Abraham Lincoln's horse and buggy. Wherever he went, I drove the horse and buggy. I was at Gettysburg. I was in Washington, D.C. I was in Springfield, Illinois. I was in Hodgenville, Kentucky. I knew Abraham Lincoln." A lot of us know about God, but we don't know God. A lot of us know that there's hurting people out there, but we don't have any kind of a strategy of how to touch them. How do I learn? Well, when I was born, I laid a whole lot. Mom told me many times in my life that they had trouble with me as a baby because I always wanted to lay on my back. I never wanted to lay on my side or on my belly. To this day, I never lay on my belly. And she told me that the reason I have a flat head in the back is because I laid on my back all the time. But I learned by watching people that there's something better than laying on your back. I learned how to turn over. And wow, what a feat that was when I learned how to turn over. That was better than laying on your back all the time. And then as I watched people, I saw people set up. And I thought, I can do that. And I set up, and I don't remember, but they applauded me. Wow, he set up by himself. That's a good feat. That's better than laying on your back all the time. Well, I watched people, and that's how we learn. We watch people, mentor, model. I saw somebody crawl. And I thought, that's better than this. And besides that, I want that over there. And as long as I'm laying here, sitting here, I can't get that over there. So I learned how to crawl. Crawling was better than just sitting in the same place all the time. And I crawled around, got my hands smacked for getting things, and I had to put them up and all those kinds of issues. I learned by watching people. I got to watching. They're walking. That walking sure beats this crawling. So I started walking. And what did I do? I fell down. Thank God you're still in diapers to sort of pad your rear end. I fell down. But one day I got up and I walked. And everybody applauded me because walking's better than this. You know, I'm talking about some spiritual issues. I walked and there was some older kids around me that ran, and I thought, that's better than this. And as I developed my skills walking, I got where I could run. And one day I was running out in the yard, and the neighbor boy went zoom by me on a bicycle. And I thought, man, that's better than this. And I remember him putting me on the seat of the bicycle and running along beside of me, teaching me that riding a bicycle was better than running. And one day I was riding my bicycle and a Mustang went shooting by me, and I thought, wow, that's better than this. We come to this stagnant place in our life that spiritually we get stuck crawling, and we're going to spend the rest of our life crawling. If you're not capable of anything else but crawling, crawl. But you're more than capable of that. What is the enemy of best? I've said this, and Larry's heard me say it so many times. There is one enemy of doing your best. That's good. Wait just a second. What do you mean? Once you get good at something, you quit making progress. Some of you listening to this right now are in the same place that you was 5 years ago. Or you're in a circular pattern that you just keep coming around back and back and back. You may strike out, but stand up at that plate. You may knock a home run. You need to get around some people that will motivate you, that will be a model to you, that will mentor to you, that you are not meant to stay crawling the rest of your life or walking. I traveled in one day 6,000 miles. I drove to Nashville. I boarded a plane, went to Philadelphia. At Philadelphia, there was a layover. I got on the plane and we flew to Tel Aviv, Israel, all in one day. I was so sick of an airplane, I didn't know if I ever wanted to see another one, but I had to get on one to come back. I will tell you that God's plan is not for you to take your little hammer and keep beating and beating and beating and beating. God's plan is for you to get a big hammer. God's plan for you is to get a nail gun. God's plan for you is to do more, and you'll never do more sticking with your little and seeing how little you are. David's brothers saw how little they were. Saul saw how little they was. David didn't see how little he was. David saw how big the giant was. The giant is big. We need to see that there is better, there is more. And how do you get it? Well, you grow by the proper diet, the proper exercise. My doctor told me several years ago that the greatest fault of humanity is not just sugar diets. He said it's the lack of exercise. People need to get up. A friend of mine got where they couldn't get up out of the chair, and therapy started coming to their house. And the lady told me the therapy started real simple. Sit in a chair and stand up 15 times. Stand up, sit down, stand up, sit down, stand up, sit down. What's that going to do? It did something. The strength started coming back. I said, Doctor, I don't feel like walking. And he said, of course you don't. The more you walk, the more you'll feel like walking. That is spiritually very true today. That we don't edify each other, we don't encourage each other, and go to the story of Ziklag, that David had to learn to encourage himself. I love when somebody comes up and pats me on the back. As a matter of fact, every now and then I'll be preaching and I go over to Larry and Larry will pat me on the back. That spurs me on. You know what a spur is to a cowboy and a horse? That spurs me on. We need to know that God has more for us. He has better for us. And it's not going to be chocolate pie falling out of the sky. You're going to have to apply yourself. You're going to have to read. You're going to have to study. You're going to have to get around. One of the terrible things that young people are doing, the ones that Larry and I was talking about, they hang around with the wrong people. You hang around a person that hates school, hates the teachers, and they're going to drop out of school. And if you hang around with them long enough, I heard a mom say the other day that her son had skipped 175 classes during the year. 6, 8 classes a day. He was skipping. He's headed for trouble because we are not edifying and encouraging ourselves and seeing there's more. There's more than taking a little hammer. There is learning the skill. There is applying yourself. There is doing that. I ask you right now, are you a good example of a bad example? What if your kids follow you in life? One of my greatest joys, I get up at 5 every morning and I read my Bible. I make notes. I have colored pencils. I color in my Bible. I write in the margins. I write notes. I have pages of notes. Probably nobody will ever read. But I have a son named Josh. I don't know about now. Josh is in his mid-40s. He'd probably get mad if I told you exactly. He's mid-40s. He's the only kid that I ever knew that read his Bible every day. Even when he had trouble reading, he read his Bible every day. It makes a difference in your life. You need, you hear me? Go to Ecclesiastes 10:10. Let's read that. And then I'll tell you a story. And then I'll get a drink of water. I might get the water first. The water bottle caves in. I almost pushed it where it squirted out. I don't want to do that. It says in Ecclesiastes 10:10, if the iron be blunt, he doth not whet the edge. The guy's not sharpening his axe. Then must he put more strength, but wisdom is profitable to direct. There's this lumber company paid massive monies for super workers. And a job opening come open, and the lumber company needed some lumberjacks to cut down trees. They had a job opening for one. The opening went something like this. They had a 8-hour tryout. They gave both of them a steel chainsaw. And they both had the same chainsaw, same amount of fuel, same amount of oil. They had all of that. And at the end of the day, whoever cut the most wood would get the job. I mean, a super high-paying job that they would get. So they sent him out in the woods, and the young man sawed and sawed and sawed. And he'd look over, and the old man would be sitting on the ground. He didn't take a break. He just kept sawing, dropping the trees, dropping the trees. He'd look over and saw the old man sitting on the ground. 10 or 12 times that day, he looked over and saw the old man sitting on the ground. The young man just kept cutting. At the end of the 8-hour shift, the old man had cut twice as much wood as the young man did. And the young man told the owner, said, I don't understand that. I never took a break. I should have twice as much as he does. And the owner of the sawmill said, there's something you don't understand that the old man understands. You've got to stop and sharpen your saw. He wasn't sitting there idly doing nothing. He did more work because he sharpened the saw. You are going to do more work. We're having more and more trouble with Alzheimer's, dementia, all those kinds of things. We have lazy minds. We use calculators. Thank God for calculators. We use computers. They're so amazing. We do all of that. And the more and more and more we rely on external things, the less and less we use our brain. The more I know how to build, I don't have them, but I know how to build muscles. Are you impressed? Did you zoom in on that later? Well, never mind. You probably don't need to. You do that by resistance. You start with a 5-pound weight and you do repetitions, and then you go to 10 pound, and then you go to 20 pound. We need to know that the storms that are blowing us around is God's attempt to get us to grow and to get us to see how important it is to edify and encourage other people. If you don't stop and sharpen your skills, I bought a Bible program. I paid $3,000 for it. It has 16,000 books in this one program. Wow. You've got to push yourself. You've got to push yourself. You've got to push yourself. And let me close with this story. That doesn't mean a thing, does it, Larry? One reason we don't encourage each other is because we don't see what each other's going through. We have to wear masks. I can't really let you know. I do have a few people that I share my heart with, and one of them is the guy on the other side of the camera. I was hurt so bad one day I didn't know what to do. I ended up at Larry's house, and I just went in, and I just told Larry. I hope he forgets what I talked about, but he probably remembers. But it doesn't affect me, so why should I worry about it? And I'm going to tell you a story about a mouse. There was a mouse that lived on a farm out in the country. He had a real comfortable little home that he built in a hole in the baseboard, and he lived in there. And one day he heard some commotion going on outside his door, and he turned his television off, and he went over to the door and he listened, and the farmer and his wife was talking, and he heard them say they just bought a new, improved, better mousetrap. Oh man, that scared the snot out of that mouse. I'm in big trouble. I'm in big trouble. And so he ran through his little house and ran out the back door, and he ran to the barnyard, and he told the chicken, they've got a new mousetrap. We need to be worried. We need to pray about this. We need to watch out. And the chicken stuck up its beak and said, That mousetrap's no problem to me. I'm not worried about that mousetrap. Go on your way. Just go on your way. I don't care about that mousetrap. So the mouse went over to the pig, and the mouse started telling the pig, if you'll stop eating pig and listen to me, they got a new, better, improved mousetrap. And I'm afraid, I'm worried, I'm very concerned. And the pig said to the mouse, that don't concern me. That don't concern me at all. I don't have to worry about a mousetrap. I don't have to worry. Get away from me, mouse. I don't want to hear your troubles. And so the mouse goes in the barn, and there's a big cow in the stall, and that big cow in the stall is eating some hay, and the mouse runs up and jumps in front of it and says, I'm so worried, I'm so afraid that there's this big new mouse trap. And the cow said, moo, moo, I'm not concerned about that. I have nothing to fear about that mouse trap. I don't care. So the mouse walked back across the barn lot and walked in the back door of his house, and he walked back and forth. Nobody cares. Nobody's worried about my pickle that I'm in. Nobody's worried about my predicament. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what I'm going to do. And he's walking back and forth, worried. What am I going to do? Nobody else is concerned about me because it don't bother them. Yeah. About 3 o'clock in the morning, there was a big snap. I hope it scared you real bad. Did you jump, Larry? No, he knew it was coming. There's a big snap. And the mouse wondered what was going on. And he went and peeked out his door. And he saw the farm lady walking across the floor to check out what the snap was. And there, a copperhead's tail was stuck in the mousetrap. And the lady in the dark reached down, thought she had a mouse, reached down to get the copperhead, reached down to get the mouse, and the copperhead bit her and injected his venom in her. And she goes and wakes up her husband and says, we're in trouble. That copperhead just bit me. He got her loaded up in the pickup truck, and they rushed into town, and they treated her. She was in several days in the hospital. And finally she got a little bit better, so they sent her home. Didn't have insurance. They sent her home, and she got home. And when they got home, several of the children come back home, and they had to eat. And the dad went out and killed the chicken, cut its head off, and made chicken and dumplings. See, the problem that didn't mean anything to the chicken, but it meant a lot to the mouse, cost the chicken its life. Oh, I know, you know the story. The mouse is wondering what's going on and realizes that chicken that wasn't bothered about his problem is now having a big problem, and they eat the chicken. Well, the lady gets very sick, and it's apparent she's going to die. So the neighbors, the family, the lady's brothers and sisters from distance away came in to visit, and they all had to have something to eat. So the farmer went out and killed the pig. They had a bacon and sausage and pork tenderloin that they ate. See, that problem that was no problem to the pig was no problem to the chicken become a problem for it. Well, after a few days of being very, very sick, the lady died. And the farmer went to make arrangements at the funeral home, and it was going to be very expensive. So the farmer hooked the trailer up to the back of the pickup truck and loaded up the cow and took the cow to the slaughterhouse and sold the cow, and took the money and paid for the funeral. See, that problem that wasn't a problem for the chicken It wasn't a problem for the pig. It wasn't a problem for the cow. We find out that we're all in this together. When somebody else hurts, I'm supposed to hurt. When somebody laughs, I'm supposed to laugh. We've got to realize that our time's almost gone. Let's come and take heed. That mouse, that's not my problem. Your problem has no effect on me. Yes, it does. If the enemy knocks you down, he's going to come after me. He's going to come after me. Let's go and close in 2 Timothy 4, verse 3. I love Paul's writings to the young man that is finding out that there's more and that we're all interconnected together. 2 Timothy 4, verse 3. For the time will come when they'll not endure sound doctrine, but after their own lust shall they heap to themselves teachers having itching ears. Somehow we get to this point that we forget that the church, united we stand, divided we fall. The Message says it this way. You're going to find that there will be times when people will have no stomach for solid food, teaching. They're going to fill up on junk food. They're going to catch opinions that tickle their fancy. Have I got time to tell one story? Let me tell you a story about crabs. I was in Florida, and as the sun was going down, these people came out with buckets, and they were getting crabs. They were catching crabs and going to take them into their kitchens and cook the crabs. And the guy caught a crab and he put it in the bucket, and the crab kept trying to get out, would have got out. So the man takes a lid and puts it over, and that crab can't get out because there's a lid on it. I was so amazed to watch. He caught the second crab, and he threw the second crab in the bucket, and he didn't put a lid on it. He caught the third crab and put it in the bucket, didn't put a lid on it. He caught 5 or 6 crabs, put them in the bucket. Any crab could have crawled out at any time, but didn't. Why? Because as one crab tries to get out of the bucket, the other crab will pull it back down. He could get out, but the other crab is all the time pulling them back down. I'm asking you in the name of Jesus Christ to learn to edify your pastor, your teacher, that person that's singing. That man that's playing the guitar has paid hundreds of dollars for that guitar and for that amplifier and all the little side things that he's got to have. And nobody ever brags on him. Somebody mowed the grass out there, 3 acres. Somebody mowed the grass. You ever say thank you? You ever tell them you appreciate it? You ever, the piano players learn the skills and everything, but most piano players haven't bought their own pianos. I'm saying there's people all around you that's making sacrifices for you. They made sacrifices to you. Somebody bought the gas in the preacher's tank to go make that visit. Somebody gave, somebody cooked, somebody whatever. We need to know that we stand together, that we stand together. Great is our God and greatly to be praised. Great is our God. Are you one of those that keeps pulling the others back in the bucket? That's such a sad story. You don't have to put the lid on it anymore because they pull each other down. Go to church and lift people up. Build them up. Build them up. Build them up. What a powerful lesson. It might not be entertaining, but if you're looking for promotion, you need to help other people. Jesus, use me, and oh Lord, don't refuse me, for surely there's a work that I can do. And even though it's humble, Lord, help my will to crumble. Though the cost be great, I'll work for you. I'm going overtime, but I want to sing this verse. He's the lily of the valley. He's the bright and morning star. He's the fairest of 10,000 to my soul. He's the beautiful Rose of Sharon. He's all the world to me. But best of all, He is my coming King. Will you sing it with me? You gonna sing it, Larry? Jesus, use me, and oh Lord, don't refuse me, for surely there's a work that I can do. And even though it's humble, Lord, help my will to crumble. Though the cost be great, I'll work for you. If there's any way possible, could you pass this on to somebody else to watch? Could you encourage people? If you're lost or if you're backslidden, if you're not active in the church, I recommend today that you confess, that you repent, that you change, and that you find yourself at the foot of the cross. Thank you for watching. Thank you, Mr. Larry Carter. I did notice, Mr. Larry, you didn't put your name on it. I want you to start putting Larry Carter, editor-in-chief or something other. Thank you, and God bless you all.